We're going to discuss the Afghanistan history, the anniversary, the debacle, the embarrassment tonight. We're going to talk to Brittany Mayer about the border, things going on there. Is Donald Trump going to prison on September 18th? All that and more coming up on I'm Right. Three years ago, the Taliban took over Afghanistan. And I understand there are all kinds of other things in the news today. We're going to get to the Trump sentencing and the border and things like that. But we just felt obligated to say something in the open about Afghanistan. You know, the guys who served there lost their lives there, lost their limbs there. They deserve so much better than what they've gotten. They deserve a reckoning. They deserve not just a recognition of what they did, the people who crapped on what they did, shortchanged them, they deserve to be called out too. You know, I got back from Iraq 2004. 2004, I got back from Iraq because my 4 years in the Marine Corps was up. And remember, that was kind of the beginning of the global war on terror. Right. So when I got back, I got out of the Marine Corps. I had some problems, stomach problems, little things. Don't worry, I'm fine. But I needed to start going to the VA hospital. And I was living in Tucson at the time. And I would go to the VA hospital, get checked out, go get a physical, go get this appointment, that appointment. And when I first started going to the VA in 04, 05, I noticed I was really one of the youngest guys, in the whole place. Because think about it, prior to the global war on terror, it was all Vietnam veterans, Korean War veterans, World War II guys were still around back then. So I was fairly young, and the other patients, I'd be sitting in a waiting room and looking around, and the other patients, they're all older, old men, 60s, 70s, 80s, old men. And it was wonderful being around them. But as I kept going for a few years, they kept getting younger. They started to look like me. And I was blessed by God to come back with all my fingers and toes and hands and come back in one piece physically for the most part. A lot of these guys were wheeling themselves around the VA, no legs, eye gone, arm gone, arms gone. And young men, I was 24, 25 years old, mid-20s somewhere, men my age, maimed for the rest of their lives, and many of them maimed in Afghanistan. And I wanted to just say that because as you're sitting here watching me on the first, you know, you're living your life, I live my life, but that 25-year-old is, Lord willing, if he's still alive, took care of himself. He's my age now, 43, and he's never got to play baseball with his kids. He needs a special car if he's even going to drive, if he's even able to at all. If he can't afford a specialty smart home, then his wife has to help him use the bathroom for the rest of his life. The rest of his life is changed because we went to war in Afghanistan. And that brings me to this. The leaders, political leaders, Democrats, Republicans, military leaders, generals, admirals, the ones responsible for taking 20 years of service and sacrifice and spitting all over those people, all over them. And I'll never forget the anger. You probably remember I was screaming and yelling that day when Afghanistan fell. Because look, Afghanistan was going to fall. The Taliban were too tough for the loser Afghan security forces we'd been training for so long, so it was going to fall. But we just yanked all our guys out of Bagram. We, of course, left a bunch of ISIS terrorists in the jail on Bagram. They were, of course, set free immediately. And then the country begins to fall, and Joe Biden couldn't even be bothered to go to work.
Where is the president? You know, why isn't he communicating fulsomely to the American people?
The president has been deeply engaged in all of the policy conversations.
Totally different story than a few weeks ago, right? I mean, why isn't he out there now? Kabul fell yesterday. Where is the president?
Again, Brianna, the president has spoken to this extensively, and I expect that he will speak to it again soon.
Soon, in the coming days, should we hear something from him today? Do you expect that? It seems like the moment demands that.
I'm not going to get ahead of both decision-making and any announcements on this. All I can say at this point is that we expect the president again to address the American people on Afghanistan, and as soon as we have more to say about that, we will.
While 20 years of service and sacrifice were being flushed down the drain by Joe Biden and his administration, he was on the beach. He was on the beach. Remember Antony Blinken, Secretary of State? He was also on vacation. Jen Psaki, press secretary, on vacation. 20 years of service and sacrifice thrown away, and the people throwing it away couldn't be bothered to put down the suntan lotion and come into work. And just thinking about it all over again, it angers me to no end. And we're not gonna let Dome get away with acting like she wasn't involved either. Whether or not what she's about to say here was true or not, it was probably a lie. She couldn't wait to run to the cameras and own the entire thing.
President Biden always said that he wants you to be the last person in the room, particularly for big decisions, just as he was for President Obama. He just made a really big decision, Afghanistan.
Yes.
Were you the last person in the room?
Yes.
And you feel comfortable?
I do.
Couldn't wait to brag while our people were dying, while 20 years was thrown away. And speaking of her, I'm just so grossed out by the people who lead this country. Honestly, both parties for the most part. But I will say this, Donald Trump, to his credit, is out there every day. He's doing rallies, he's in diners, he's speaking to people. Kamala Harris, on top of everything else that's wrong with her, has so little respect for you, so little regard for the American citizen. She won't even speak to a reporter because she just doesn't feel like she has to. Of all people, Jim Acosta, maybe the biggest loser in the United States of America, even he's practically begging these people to do an interview.
Would it kill you guys to have a press conference? Why hasn't she had a press conference?
Listen, the Vice President and Governor Walz have been busy crisscrossing this country.
A campaign rally is not a press conference. Why hasn't she had a press conference? She's the vice president. She can handle the questions. Why not do it?
We absolutely are going to do it. You hear her take questions as she's out on the stump, and she said last week we're going to be having a sit-down interview here before the end of the month.
I don't want to, belabor this, but one interview before the end of the month. I mean, that's not a lot. I mean, can you commit to a press conference before the end of the month?
We will commit to directly engage with the voters that are actually going to decide this election. And that is going to be complete with rallies, with sit-down interviews, with press conferences, with all the digital assets that we have at our disposal.
They just don't give a crap about you at all. They don't even pretend. And I sit back and I think about the potential of that woman being the next president, and I will address her poll numbers here in just a little bit. And I know a lot of people are panicking right now. We're going to talk about that, but there is a chance, of course, that she is the next president of the United States of America. And I sit back and I think about the people who would look at that woman. How could you possibly look at that woman and send a person like that into office? Whatever you think about Donald Trump, how could you go vote? Who are the people who will go vote for Kamala Harris? And these are the people.
Today, we're trying to find out from the attendees what Kamala Harris's greatest accomplishment has been as VP.
Honestly, I'm not too into politics. I'm just here for the vibe.
Becoming the first female vice president.
So becoming the VP is the best accomplishment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Being a good person.
Being a good person?
Yeah. She's I don't know. She seems really good for women.
Harris is there with the energy. She has a lot of enthusiasm, so it's important to get behind her.
What is Kamala's top accomplishment, you think?
I can't say anything right now. Give me a second.
Her top contributions to policy or policy as VP.
I wasn't in on the policy making decisions with President Biden, so I don't know.
I don't even know. I don't even know. That's where we're at as a country. We might actually lose to those people. Think about that. Those people and people like this.
Why are y'all voting for Kamala Harris?
I don't want to lose my rights. I'm a trans man and I'm gay and I have been pregnant and I've had an abortion before and I don't want to lose that. I'm afraid of not being able to be myself anymore because from what I've heard, Trump's America doesn't want me to look like this. So that's why I'm here today and that's why I'm voting blue.
What about you?
I've also been pregnant and had an abortion before. I was a minor and it would have been dangerous for me to properly, it would have been dangerous for me to carry a baby with personal reasons and everything.
Good grief. That's where we're at. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am right. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.